Alrighty-o, then. We are on day 57 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge, and this week is going to be Stefan Gagne week, or Pixelscapes week. Maybe I should just call it Pixelscapes week, because I'm not even sure if I'm saying his name correctly, and I'll feel very ashamed afterwards. Anyway, this week I'm going to be reading the works of Stefan Gagne, or Pixelscapes, and he's one of my favorite online authors kind of deal. I have to admit I've not been reading some of his latest stuff, but I do remember going through his entire portfolio of stuff, which, although admittedly I never read Sailor Nothing until yesterday, so I should probably go through the rest of that. But basically, I love his writing. I love the stuff he writes. That's why I love his writing. And the thing that I read first, or one of the things I read first, was Unreal Estate, which was a fun little adventure type thingy-me-bobby-bob kind of deals. And it was, so that's what I'm reading today. I'm going to read the, I don't know, I guess I'll read the very first chapter so you can get an introduction to the series. Yeah, so all of this is available at pixelscapes.com. That's pixelscapes.com, pixelscapes.com. And yeah, that's pretty good. So what's Unreal Estate all about? Well, I wish there was a blurb. There isn't a blurb. Oh my god, it was written 2001 to 2003. Oh my god, it was 10 years ago. Oh my god, I read this 10 years ago. La. I do remember, eagerly awaiting each chapter as well. My god, that's such a long time ago. So what's it about? It's, just your basic science fiction, action comedy, original anime style, reality bending twist love story with a twist. So that's what it is. So it's like one of my Japanese animes, only in written format, and it bounces along really, really smoothly, if I recall correctly. I think they're actually sequelish type things now for Unreal Estate, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but the original story was 14 chapters long. And really quite a lot of fun. So anything by Stefan Gagne is quite a lot of fun, so you should be reading them if you can. Anyway, I've been talking for far too long about Stefan Gagne. I'll have more stories about his stories and stuff. But yeah, let's have a look at chapter 1 of Unreal Estate. And yeah, okay. It was 13 o'clock on a typical day when the sky turned blue. Mallory didn't even have to open his eyes to know that something was wrong. When the sky turns blue, you can feel it down to your core. The air feels thick around you, harder to breathe than usual. Sounds are muffled and dull, and your stereo hearing gets slapped back down to mono. In short, it feels unreal. For some reason, it had been happening around 13 o'clock more often than not. He wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because he was on a break during those hours. A full morning in classes, a full afternoon of plowing fields. He needed this little lunchtime break. It was his time to flop down on the nearest grassy hill, put on his headphones, and listen to the streams over the integrated but quite low bandwidth with a tinny-sounding RealNet audio receiver. He could tune out his world and tune into others. He turned down the volume because he knew what was coming next. "Mallory Heisenberg!" A loud voice almost echoed through the acoustic cotton wads in the air. "Over here, Dad," Mallory called back, sitting up. He quickly packed away his headphones into his school sack before his father could spot them. "We're running in safety mode again, huh?" The man in peasant farmer's clothes, you can tell from the amount of dirt and color tones ranging from the spectrum from brown and green, jogged to a halt, glancing up at the sky with a frown of displeasure. "Blue sky of death. 3rd time this week," he reminded him. "3rd time, Mallory. We really should call in a technician tonight to fix the blasted thing once and for all. Something can't be right if it's crashing this often." "Come on, Dad, they charge an arm and a leg. Why should we pay him through the nose? I can handle it just fine," Mallory said, smiling to try to cheer his father up. "Although, if you'd like to cut down on my chores a bit in payment..." The elder farmer crossed his arms, giving his boy a flat look. No words. Yeah, but it was worth a try," Mallory said, hiking his sack over one shoulder. The windmill was quite a Sorry, let's try it again. The windmill was quite a ways away, but there wasn't a rush. Safety mode would last at least a day before anything else went wrong. The glossy brochures had said so, complete with a language like money-back guarantee. Mallory knew the way and walked on past the planting fields, past the farmers and his classmates at work in the fields, past the classroom building, past the church, even past his own house, to the tallest structure in the land. Not that he needed to climb to the top of the windmill. The engine was, in fact, kept in the basement. Mallory studied the instrument panel. All the blinking red warning lights, the pop-up images projected on the cheap liquid crystal, expecting liquid crystal display, but it's just actually on the cheap liquid display pane above the machine. He read the complicated error code. He scratched his chin. "This may take a while," he said. "A while?" his father asked. "You're usually done with it pretty quickly." Mallory shrugged, trying to look non-committal. "It varies, Dad. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. You should probably go tell the council this can be fixed. They're likely running around like chickens with their heads cut off as usual. I'll join you when I finish, I promise." With a nod, the elder Heisenberg walked up the stairs, closing the basement door behind him. The boy looked up, listened for the departing footsteps. Thud, 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 thud. Quiet. He sat down and waited a few minutes, picked at some wax that had been building up in his ear lately. Once enough time had passed, he walked up to the complicated piece of reality technology and repaired it via a good swift kick to the metal casing. The lights on the machine went out. The light on the machines clicked back on. Reality asserted itself. Faint, stereoscopic sounds could be heard. Colors felt less muted. The air was musty and old, but he was technically in the basement of a windmill. Better this cheap trick than to worry him how I really fix the engine each time it crashes, Mallory thought to himself for the dozenth time. That's a horrible word. Dozenth time. He shut down the engine's display panel to reduce load on the windmill's power generation, walked back up the stairs, and headed back to his favorite grassy hillside, back to the old grind. Things were shaping up to be another typical day in Mallory's life. Classes, relaxation, reality crashes, reality reboots, chores, watching the network, bed. 19 years to date in this loop. Day in, day out, same old, the usual, the tried and true, staying the course. He'd read once on the network about how people sailed across worlds with oceans in vehicles built to harness the power of the wind. There would be open spots no, there's no open in there. Where did the open come from? I have no idea. There would be spots in the middle of an ocean where no wind blew and the waves were calm. Doldrums, they were called. Places where everything just sits there until you die of boredom and or hunger with no wind to aid your escape. To carry the metaphor too far, which had an uncanny habit of doing even in his own mind, he was hungry for something other than the boredom of this world, and even the perpetual wind which drove the windmill Damn it, I'm doing it again. That whole, I put a D at the end of mill instead of wind, so it's windmilled. What? What's windmilled? Windmill, not windmilled. Jeez, windmill. Wasn't enough to blow him to new ports of call. He'd need tornado-like winds that tore up trees by the root and dumped them in parts unknown. Unfortunately, tornadoes never popped up in Grunwald. Oh, it's German. That's nice. Grunwald, metaphoric or literal, and had been designed, and it had been specifically designed to avoid dangerous weather, cultured to avoid dangerous situations. Even the rain was scheduled. This reality, this world, his home, had been specifically designed to tick along at a nice, predictable pace. Nice and predictable pace. Nothing out of the ordinary could ever happen here. As he pondered such tornadoes, walking along to rejoin his life already in progress, a house fell on him. Yes, and that's the prologue for episode 1. So let's just keep reading a little bit further, shall we? Into actual episode 1. Unreal Estate, episode 1. Boy Meets Worlds. For many people, that would be the end of their life story. Humorous obituaries on tabloid video streams would follow. Boy with hideous luck hit by falling house. Right next to bizarre creatures from no space impregnated me. I can't make that roll. Impregnated me. I don't know. Can't make that work. Impregnated. It's a clumsy word. Just clumsy. Okay, keep reading. Fortunately for Mallory's continued existence, 3 factors other than his bad luck came into play. Number 1. Survival instincts. The sort that are coded into the genes and kick in despite having a soft life, where the nastiest surprise you have is to worry about whether or not you passed your exam in baking and bread goods 101. These allowed Mallory to hit the ground nice and fast when he noticed a very rectangular, non-cloud-shaped shadow surrounding him. Number 2, geographical layout, specifically the 2 lumpy hills to his left and right, which formed a nice valley just deep enough for a human to flop face first into, and were firm enough to support the house's weight without crushing him. In short, Mallory hit the deck and miraculously survived. It did take a few moments for his non-death to register in his brain, of course. Once he had the nerve to open his eyes, he saw brown. Once he had the nerve to wipe the dust kicked off from the impact from his glasses, he saw light in the narrow crack between the lumpy underside of the house and the ground. Some part of him, which was too stunned to be stunned, pondered how new and interesting the situation was. Because you can never have too much bewildering confusion. Because you can never have too much bewildering confusion. Next, Mallory observed a pair of legs stepping down to the ground from what was presumably the front door of the house. One foot after the other, sandal-like shoes of some sort, although not the dirt and animal dung covered he was used to. They looked like something they might very well be fashion. They looked like something that I'm not doing very well with this one. They looked like something that might very well be fashioned. Fashioned? No, just fashion. Fashion to his untrained farmer's boy eye. The stunned/non-stunned part of him also recognized the faint brown tinge of pantyhose, which he had never seen in person, but plenty of times on video streams. As if the legs weren't enough new stimulus to make his brain go pop, the woman who leaned down to peer into the narrow space at him had enough details to make his brain go woomph and trickle out his ears in twin gray streams of liquid. Metaphorically, of course. Long brown hair and... "Hello?" she called to him, staring at him funny. "Hello?" Mallory replied back, since it was polite to greet strangers. Hello, she said back, waving her hand, a bit puzzled at this. Hello! Mallory spat back cheerfully, since it was nice to be cheerful and have a good outlook on life. Haven't I seen you somewhere before? She asked because, well, she thought she had seen him somewhere before. Mallory said, his mind racing to cope with all this. I don't think so. I've never left this reality. Sorry. You're not dead, right? Or paralyzed from the waist down or something like that? Mallory wiggled his toes in hand-me-down shoes. I don't think so, he said. So, what are you still doing down there? You pinned? Yeah. The dirt really did a number on his favorite battered gray hooded sweatshirt, but he wriggled his way out and was standing on his own 2 feet next to her in a matter of moments, which made him feel a bit silly for lying there under the house the whole time. Now that the two of them were upright, Mallory managed more than a narrowly defined view of her. Does that sentence make sense? Mallory managed more than a narrowly defined view of her. Oh, because he can see more of her now than he did before. Okay, I get it now. I get the sentence now. Okay. Now that the two of them were upright, Mallory managed more than a narrowly defined view of her. She was about his age, but dressed in more businessy attire than he'd ever seen someone wearing, or at least someone who wasn't on a video stream. It makes sense, considering the mobile home implied she was from outside of Grunwald and was glaring at him slightly, arms crossed. You sure you didn't get a concussion? You've got this blank, glassy stare thing going on. Sorry, Mallory apologized, meeting her eyes. It's just there aren't a lot of pretty girls in Grunwald. She said, emphasizing the That statement would make you either charmingly innocent or a skirt chaser then. I'm not, what's a skirt chaser? Charmingly innocent it is, she said, without technically being charmed by it. You got a name, impressionable youth? Does this reality have a name? Can I please get a little information now that we've established you're of sound mind and body and capable of answering questions? Oh, sorry, you're in Grunwald. So, is this your house? Mallory asked, looking at the cozy-looking brick and aluminum siding structure with well-painted window shutters and a brass knocker on the door. God, I hate the word the. I just hate the word the or the. Either way. A brass knocker on the door. Either way, that's just terrible. That's a terrible word. Why'd you park here? The dock is a few kilos that way. Grunwald? No, Grunwald. What's the difference? 2 dots, I think, Mallory replied. Right, Grunwald. She thought aloud, trying to recall a few details. That would explain the pastoral acres of green and corn as high as the elephant's eye. Returning to your questions, yes, this is my house, and if I had stolen it, I probably wouldn't fess up to you. And finally, I didn't park here. I quite obviously crashed here. Who are those people? Now would be a good time to pause and reflect in further detail upon Mallory's frame of mind. Many things of a dangerous, interesting nature had happened to Mallory in the last 2 minutes. Ordinary people would be very unsettled by this. For someone who lived a sheltered life for nearly 2 decades, it was enough to throw his crossbeam askew on a treadle and then some. He had heard of transients, of course. That's how he knew what the house truly was, a mobile home that doesn't take root anywhere, but moves from reality to reality like a tractor. The only vehicles he had handy to make the analogy were tractors. If his brain was operating at full speed, he'd recall ground cars and other sorts of ships from his daily video streams viewing of other realities. Transients were uncommon in Grunwald, which rarely interacted with other realities beyond basic trade of goods. but he had seen enough trade buildings come and go from the docks before. This is also why he knew This is also why he knew to ask, why didn't you park at the dock? Since typically houses, cargo huts, small businesses, and other mobile buildings could land at specifically zoned dock area on the other side of the village. This house had not parked at the dock. It had parked on top of him. He was able to register this fact quickly, so you have to give him some credit despite all that had gone completely wrong in this situation. His brain zeroed in on relevant details. Unfortunately for him, this information could prove to be completely useless at that time, and also, unfortunately, his distraction caused him to lose track of who was approaching. "Huh?" he said, his mind moving in 6 directions at once, 2 of which were only theoretical under conventional reality as the group approached. Don't know."
"You are trespassing,"
the leader of the small group accused, pointing the finger of accusation firmly at the woman despite trembling with rage.
"You did not contact us ahead of time to consult on your arrival in Grunwald, and your presence is illegal. You could be bringing in foreign diseases and contaminating our crops, or worse. We demand you leave immediately, woman."
"Oh, this is the council," Mallory introduced well after the fact. Some of them, at any rate. Hi, Dad." The woman stepped forward, blocking Mallory, who would likely only befuddle matters more than they were already befuddled, and attempted to be cool and charming. "I'd love to leave, but I have a problem," she said in more even and measured tones than she had used with him. "I didn't land here on purpose. My reality engine for mobiles crashed while I was trying to get to another reality. We're all very lucky safety mode kicked in, and I didn't phase into existence through something else or suffer structural damage on landing. A close call, but everything's fine, yes?" But it nearly crushed me, so if you could just let me borrow your resident reality engineer, or can give me the address to one that's local to Grunwald, I'll get repaired and be on my way," she concluded. The council member frowned at her. Not that he stopped frowning since his arrival, but he made a point to throw a frown just a little more. He made a point to frown just a little bit more. And there's no bit in there, there's just a little more.
"We haven't got a reality engineer. What do you think this is? Urbana?"
Sorry, in the middle of a burp.
"Urbana, where you can snap your fingers and get anything you want? We're farming and community. There's an A in there. A farming and cooking community. And your presence is disrupting the harmony of the..."
"Then it's going to have to keep disrupting until I can call in an engineer from RealWare," she interrupted, losing a bit of a cool and dropping her curt levels of attitude. Into curt levels of attitude. "That's the way it is. I'll warn, they've been known to take days to service Class C contracts like mine, but I assure you that I have proper passport data and I'm not carrying anything that'll cause trouble here."
"We can have you deported," the council member threatened, shaking a fist with rage. Or at least trying to be threatening and fist-shaking, but ending up somewhere between unimpressive and a complete joke. "We may be backwards to you city folk, but we've got a deporter and can kick your ugly house out of here in a few minutes or so."
"Ugly house?" she asked, her eyebrows tightening. "Now listen up, Farmer John. I can fix it!" This time she didn't interrupt him. In fact, all attention turned to him directly. I think I can," Mallory clarified. "Reality engines for realities and reality engines for mobiles are basically the same, stuff? Technology! The same technology. And Dad, I can fix reality engines. I could get her up and running and nobody would have to do anything else, okay? Yeah, it'll be fine." Because he was being a complete pain in the ass. The council leader looked aghast at the proposal.
What? Allow you to enter that monstrosity? He asked, nodding towards the house. I won't allow it. Outsiders are not to be trusted. She could kidnap you, or worse things I can't even think of at the moment, if...
Since Mallory had played the peacekeeper role already, his father stepped up to the plate.
He can fix it,
he said, calm and reasonable about it. Reasonable about it. Ugh. Calm and reasonable about it. Then the problem is solved. Then the problem will be solved. I'm in favor of it.
Your voice isn't as great on our council as you'd think, Joseph.
One of the generic old guys who hadn't spoken up spoke up with.
If you seriously think...
I have no problems with my boy entering the house, Josef Heisenberg said. Let's clear this up and get back to work. You're not in favor of delay of work, yes? Terrific, Mallory cheered, resisting the urge to jump for joy. Okay, I'll be done in a minute. Let's go, miss. What? She asked before being dragged into her own front door by the excited youth. With that, Mallory stepped into another world, or at least a piece of a world he had never seen before in person. Sorry, that's the other way around. Or at least a piece of a world he had never seen in person before, which had been dumped in his front lawn, which was just as exciting to him. And I didn't get that sentence right. Or at least a piece of a world he had never seen in person before, which had been dumped on his front lawn, which was just as exciting to him. And yeah. And we'll stop there. That's a good place to stop. Anyway, that was part of the first episode for Unreal Estate by Stefan Gagne. And yeah, it's quite a fun series. So read it if you can. In fact, that's the same for anything that I've read for the past 50 or so plus things that I've read out loud. You should read anything that I've read out loud for those, except for the stuff that you shouldn't read that you shouldn't read. That you should never read because they're terrible. So don't read those, but read the other things that you should read. I don't know. That made no sense. Anyway, that was day 57 of the 100 Days of Narration Challenge. Hope you enjoyed that. And we'll be going on with our Pixelscapes week with another piece of work from Stefan Gagne tomorrow. So be sure to come back for that for day 58 tomorrow. All right. Thank you.